Morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Can you send a message if you can hear me, just so that I can make sure? Okay, cool. How's it, Kelly? Thanks for letting me know. All right, just a few things that we're going to go through today. We're just going to have a look at who is Baker Baines, and then we're going to look at some demonstrations that I've put together on how to create and implement custom BIM families and load them and edit the BIM families with the parameters and make BIM families editable within the model. And then another little demo that I did was how to create schedules with type images for the items that we have scheduled. So just to get started, we're going to have a look at who is Baker Baines. We are an Autodesk Gold partner specializing in the building, sub-infrastructure, process and power, product design and manufacturing. And we are obviously also, we have the ability to do the scan to BIM hardware and the interior scanning with the BLK 360 for as-built drawings, and all of these are done with the laser scanners. We are partnered up with Leica and Topcon, Leica being more for like local use and Topcon more for like mine sites and anything outside of a building. We'll also be BEE certified, and we are an authorized Autodesk training center, and we have partnered up with CAD Learning. We are one of the only partners of CAD Learning, which is a phenomenal e-learning portal that allows you to have a look at little descriptions and videos on how to perform tasks right through from the beginning and very fundamental lessons right through to advanced and even more advanced things that the majority of us don't even know about yet. Okay, so our industry experience, we have been working with a multitude of companies and has given us the opportunity to be involved in the architectural, building and construction industry, as well as civil engineering infrastructure, process plants, energy and mining, and product design and manufacturing. At Baker Baines, we believe in assessments, education, and consulting people to ensure that they are able to use the software to their best abilities. Okay, so what we're going to have a look at now is our first little demonstration that we've done over here, and that is just how to create a little customizable family that I've set up and created. So I've got a little template building over here that I made, and we're going to look at how to put some windows in, make the windows editable within the model, and how to get all those parameters done so that we can just use that same window family as opposed to now creating different ones for each window. All right, so the first thing we need to do is go to File up at the top there, and then the Revit gives us all those options in the Create a New Family template, and then we're gonna, those are all like little preset items that we're gonna have a look at. So if you're not sure which the right template is to use, or if you want to create something that you want to create out of your own thing, you can just use one of these that are like pre-set up, and it'll basically allow you to use something that they've already set up. You can just go to the generic models for that. For today's exercise, we're going to have a look at metric windows. So we're going to open up that family over there, and you can see that it's given us like a little bit of an annotation saying where the exterior is, where the interior is, which side of the building is where, and then the actual default wall piece. So we're looking at the elevation now. You can see it's already given a cutout within that wall, and it gives you the height, which is already parametric. Okay, and we just look at the parameters up at the top, and then over here we can see the height is over there. So if we go and edit that parameter now, we will see that it will automatically update the profile on the wall. Okay. So now what we want to do is to create a little window frame within the wall opening. And to do that, we have all these different options that we can use. And I suggest you have a look at it and be adventurous and try out a bunch of different ones over there when you have time. It's very useful to learn how to use all of them, but for now we're going to use the extrusion tool. We're going to use that extrusion tool obviously just to make our window. So we're going to use the rectangle tool and draw a little window alignment out there. And we're just going to make sure that it's aligned to the edges of that wall. And you'll see there that it makes, it gives us those little locks which we can force to lock onto the edges of the wall.
We present to you for your final comments and approval.
There's something going on in the background there. Should do that. Just give me a second, please. If I just pause this quickly. Can everyone still hear me?
Disposable cameras are fun, although it does seem wasteful and you don't ever get to see your pictures. If it's
Right, so everyone can still hear me now. All right. So I'm just going to carry on with that. Sorry, there's another noise coming in. I'm not sure where it's coming from. So just to continue from where we've left off, we've now created the inside of the frame as well. All right, and we haven't made it aligned or anything of the sorts. So, which is fine, we can come back later and sort that out. Now if we open up the parameters again and we change the height, we will see that it will update everything automatically for us. Okay, so we're changing the width there and the width is updated. So now that we've added the height and width parameters in there, we're also going to look at the depths of the wall of the window to make sure that it sits within the wall thicknesses. So to do that, we're going to go to the left elevation, and over there we can see where the extrusion is sitting. So we can see that the depth of the extrusion is defined by the depth extrusion end over there on the left-hand side, and we change that to 500, and you'll see that it will protrude from the wall. So what we want to do is we want to basically align that extrusion to end within the confinements of the wall still, so that it's not sticking out. And again, we have that little lock key that we can click on to make sure that no matter what the thickness of the wall is, that the window frame will sit at that same thickness. So we're going to test that now by changing the wall thickness to see if it works, and we can see that it has worked. So as you can remember, we didn't sort out the frame thicknesses, so we're going to go and sort those out now. So we're going to have a look at the parameters to define the thicknesses. So we need to create new parameters to define those frame thicknesses. So we're going to just do this quickly. It's going to be a type family, and we're going to, the type parameter needs to remain length, and the group is going to be dimensions, because that's what we need to use to define the actual size of it. So now we're going to say there that we want our thickness to be 50, and to do that we need to add some dimensions into it. So we're going to double click the extrusion to access that part of it again, and now we can dimension it or annotate it and ensure that we can now lock those dimensions in to read back to the parameter. So just dimensioning all of the edges, because we'll need to do it all the way around and not only on the one, obviously, because there's all the edges that we need to get through. So now when we click on one of the dimensions, you can see up at the top over there where the witness lines are, there's a label area, and it's currently got no label assigned to it. So now we're going to add a label to parameter to that dimension, and it's predefined because we said we wanted it to be 50 mils. So we're just going to change them all to the 50 mil frame thickness parameter now. All right. So now we can see that it's already changed the frame thickness to the 50 mils, which we said we wanted it to be at. So we can finish that editor now. So now we can see that when we change or we're going to test it and see that if we change the thickness of the frame, just to confirm that everything's worked nicely, there we go. We can see that it's basically updated the entire frame thickness and that our parameters that we've put in place have now worked. Okay, so now we're going to add in some glass, but because we want the glass to sit in the middle, we have to select the work pane that we want to work on, which is the center, front, or back. So now to create the glass pane, we first need to set it. So we're going to go set work pane, and then we're going to select the work pane that we decide to use. And then we're going to create another extrusion to essentially make the glass panel, which would need to sit inside the borders of the frame that we've already created. So again, same process, we would need to lock all the edges on, and now we need to give a frame thickness. So our glass thickness over here for hypothetical purposes is going to be 3 centimeters, so 30 millimeters, and we're going to finish that extrusion off there. Okay, so now we're looking at the 3D view, and we can see there's our glass piece over there, and we can pan around and see that it is in fact sitting in the center, and that it's exactly how we intended it for it to be. And you can see over there that the glass piece isn't yet see-through. Revit obviously doesn't know by itself that it would need to be see-through, so we would need to change the materials of that. So we're going to click on the extrusion, and then we can see in the properties tab on the left here that there's a material, and we're just going to change that material by category. So that little square on the side there is where we can click to add a parameter in for this. So we're creating a new parameter to be able to assign a specific material family to it. Okay. So as you can see over there, it's already said to you that the type of parameter is material, as we clicked on the materials area there, and we're just going to call this glass materials. So okay, okay again. Now in the parameters, if we go back to the family types at the top, we can now see our new parameter that we've made. And over there, we're just going to go and select glass. Okay. So now we can see it's gone see-through because we can see the other side of the window still there. So that's perfect. Next thing we want to do is just click on the gray box, add a new parameter in, because now we're going to add a material for the frame, because obviously the frame is not the default material either. So we're just going to change that to wood. Not to default, sorry. So the reason we choose the default here is because we're going to now select the actual material within the model once we've brought it in. So if we change this to consistent colors, we can see that it already pretty much looks like a window and that we're heading on the right path. Now what we need to do is add a mullion or a splitter or a part of a window frame that goes down the middle. So to do this, we go back to our exterior elevation again and create another extrusion. So just remember to double check that your work plane is set back to exterior so that you're not working on the wrong plane or in the wrong direction or anything like that. So it's just a good thing to bear in mind. So as you can see, we've made another extrusion over here, and to do this we want to make it parametric as well, and we need to now add dimensions and parameters into it to make it editable within the model. So before we finish off over here, we need to go to the type properties and add in new parameters, but there are different ways to do it. If we just put the dimensions in over here directly, we can give a dimension there and then a dimension of the thickness of the material. Then when we click on the dimension now, there's no label assigned yet. So we can now over there on the side, because we haven't physically created one outside yet, in the other parameters properties box in the top left over there, we're just going to come straight here and create it from here. So we're going to call this a mullion distance. Yeah, the mullion distance to frame. And then we're going to say okay, and then over here we're just going to create a new parameter for this one as well, and that's mullion thickness. Okay, and now when we finish that off, our extrusion is over there, and then we can find in our family types over there to see that it has now added those parameters under the dimension area. So now we're just going to change those dimensions to make sure that what we've placed in works, and we can see it works perfectly fine so far. Okay. But now, as before with the frame, we also need to assign a material to that. So we want to make sure that if we look at the section view before we assign the material to it, that our mullion in fact runs the full distance of the window thickness as well. So we're going to lock that in place, same as what we did with the frame. Otherwise, we're just going to have a floating mullion and not an actual proper element in our model. So we're looking at it now, and we can kind of see that everything looks perfectly fine. We've opened up the 3D view now as well, and we can see that it actually sits nicely. So if we select that mullion, and now we can create another family parameter for a mullion material, but we're just going to use the frame material parameter because obviously it's part of the frame. So now we're going to load this family that we've now created into our project, and we're going to place it along the wall. And it's been made nice and easy for us because we use the window family. So placing our nice new windows was really easy. So to change the parameters, we just got to duplicate the type. So we're just going to call this type 1 for argument's sake. And over here, you can see our frame material and glass material, and all the parameters that we have put in place are actually visible, and you are able to see them from here. So we're just going to change the window size over here to make those parameters, or we'll put those parameters to use. And then we can see once we change the window size, everything works exactly how we planned on it working. So we're going to try and move the mullion a bit more to the middle, just to make sure that it looks more realistic or as a window would. And then we can also assign specific materials to the frame, which we're going to make wood for now. And then we've already assigned the glass material to it. So because we use the window family, we have these predefined constraints that we can actually use and edit to make sure the window aligns to wherever we want it to be. So thank you for watching that. Any questions so far on how to edit or make a window or anything pertaining to what we've just covered now? No one got any questions? Okay, well, if no one's got any questions, I'm sure we can just move onto the next slide, or onto the next demonstration that I've prepared for everyone. Sorry, not this one. All right, so over here, I have now created my own new basically my own little project. I've opened a completely new architectural template. I'm just going to go through the steps over here and show you how to basically make a schedule and how to have images pull through into that schedule. A lot of time people would use this if there's specific build-ups on walls or specific shapes of columns or any elements that they've now scheduled that they want to give the contractor or someone on site a clear view, or the manufacturer a clear view on how to make. This is a very useful way on how to do that. So just to get going over here, I'll talk you through it as we go along. So I'm going to use walls for argument's sake for this exercise that we're going to go through now. So I'm going to create a wall over there. And then I'm just going to create a rectangular wall system. So I'm just going to use any random size, it's not anything specific. And to do this, I'm going to obviously need to make a couple of different ones just to show you how different images view through and how to obviously have more than one image in your schedule. So I'm just going to make a standard cavity wall over here, 270 millimeters thick. And then I'm going to assign a type mark to it, because when we schedule it, we need to make sure that we have these this information in the schedule as well. It's some standard stuff. But before I do this, we need to add new layers into our actual build-up and structure of it. So in the middle, obviously, we're going to create an air layer, and we're going to give all of these parts of it thicknesses now so that it actually pulls through properly. All right, so once we've done that, we're going to click OK. All right, and then OK again. And we can see now, we're going to zoom in a bit, and we can see that there's no visible cavity yet. That's because of our detail level. We need to change that to fine, and then we'll see it pulls through the cavity. Okay, so we're going to do another one now. Another iteration of the wall with a different build-up so that we can see how the various images look when we have them all in the same schedule. So this one is a 220 millimeter thick wall with plaster and paint, just for a hypothetical example. Again, we add a type mark, and I'm going to add a description here as well, telling them to use plascon paint. Okay, and we mustn't forget, we need to edit the structure of any of these walls that we're now creating. So we're going to insert some sides to it over there. And we need to assign thicknesses. So there it is, 15 mils for the plaster and 5 mils for the paint. But now remember, we forgot to change what it actually is. So we're going to change it to finish 1 and finish 2, because it's not actually part of the structure of the wall. We need to bear that in mind when creating these things as well. So we're going to say OK there, and now we can see that even though it's pretty small, we can see that it is there. And the little flip arrows that we were looking at was obviously to flip the direction to show which way to orientate it and whether you wanted the paint on the inside or outside. So we're creating a new schedule now. So we're going to create a wall schedule from the list of options that we have over here. Say OK, and now we're going to select the fields that we want to include in our schedule, and all of these fields that we're going to select now. Obviously, in the real world, when you're doing your own work, there's going to be various fields that you may need to add in, whether it's count or cost or who the manufacturer is or what phase it's in. For our purposes, we need to now also create a new parameter, and we're going to call this image. We're going to have the common discipline there is perfectly fine, and for the type of parameter, it's an image, and the group parameters under graphics, which is perfect. So we can say OK over there as well. And one can see it's populated the image into our fields from the new one we've created. Okay, so there's the schedule of the items that we have inside our project so far, or of the walls we have. We can see we haven't assigned all the type marks or descriptions, and we have not assigned any images yet. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is go back to filter, check that if there's anything you need to filter out, if there's various types of walls, but for this exercise, we only have the one type of wall, the one family of walls. We don't have steel walls or wall dividers there. So we've now itemized just the items that we want, because we don't want to see the same item popping up 2 or 3 times. And you can see this will, if you change items over here by adding that type mark that we didn't originally have, it'll add it to all the walls of that same type. It's the same as doing it in the model itself. So over here, we're going to just group these in ascending order now by type mark, just to make it easier when reading the model or reading the drawing off a sheet at a later stage. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're just going to create some similar versions of those walls just to the side over there. So I'm using the create similar tool to do this quickly. And we're going to use this just to create our images of the walls from. And So once we have them all on the side there, the way we do it is I'm just going to use the regular snipping tool. So I'm just creating a little snippet of each of the walls over here. And I'm going to save it as, you'll see that I have actually done it before. But I'm saving each of the images so that I can refer back to them now when I go back into my schedule straight after this. And just one more to do. So we need to make sure that obviously we need an image of each of the items that we have or that we want to have images for, whether it's walls or windows or columns or beams, whatever you need to have a specific image for, you need to obviously have an image for each of the items, every one that looks different at least. So we're going to go back into our wall schedule now, and now we want to apply an image to our 270mm cavity wall, and we need to go add image, and over there we're going to select the one that we've saved and say open, and then the next one over there we want to do, but we have to say OK first to show that we've completed the selection for that specific wall type. The next one is going to be with plaster and paint, and then the last one is just the generic 200mm wall that we have. And we need to do that same adding process again. All right, so now that we've added in all our images into the schedule, we now need to create a new sheet. So we're going to right click and create a new sheet, and just going to use the generic title block for this one. And on our sheet, we need to bring the view in. So you can either delete those off the side there, or alternatively, you can just crop them out of this view for now. It doesn't really matter, you don't need to keep them there. All you needed those walls for was just to make an image out of it. And I just used it. You can use the existing ones, but I just used it to have the orientation of the images all the same direction, as opposed to using a vertical image on the one and a horizontal image on the other, just to keep some uniformity. So to go back to the sheet now, after cropping our view out, we're just going to drop that view onto our sheet, and then we're just going to move this around and make it a little bit neater. Okay, and then from here onwards, we are going to add on our wall schedule that we've now created. Okay, and we can see now, if we zoom in onto our wall schedule, our images have pulled through very nicely. And if we enlarge our image field or the column over there, it enlarges the images inside the columns too. And that's the same if you just extend the rows up or down as well. All right, is everyone happy with regards to that? Did it make sense? Any questions on how to do images, or what types of images, or how you go about doing this that someone's maybe unsure about or wants to share some information on? Nothing? Kelly, I know you said you had some questions. Are you sure? All right, cool. All right, well, if no one's got any questions on this specific topics that we covered today, if you have questions on other topics or any recommendations or comments or anything that you want us to maybe cover in the future, or anything specific that you would like to look at or go over, yeah, please feel free to send me an email and to go on from there. If there's anything else that anyone would like to talk about, this is your last chance. Otherwise, if there's no one else asking any questions, we're going to conclude our session for today. All right, thanks everybody. I hope it was beneficial and that you can use this to go forward and use it in your own fields. Obviously, this is just giving you a brief outline of what can be done and how to do it. you would need to go and apply it to your own ways, however you deem necessary. I understand not everyone's going to need to make a window, but some guys may need to make drop panels in the structural field, or different size ducting or anything like that in the MEP field. It's all pretty much the same concept. We just have to ensure that we are very careful with how we use our parameters and set all our parameters correctly. Okay. All right, thanks everybody. I hope you have a good day. Please feel free to copy down my email address over here. I'll leave it up for a couple more minutes. And just to make sure that if you have any questions, send them through and I will try and get back to you as soon as I can.